I'm pretty much telling this story because I've got a bunch of tickets to Silver Bell, but because I forgot to advertise it entirely and then went on vacation. So dumb. So dumb to just be like, yes, a grand announcement of Melbourne Live, and only I know about it. Hello? Hello? So it's so stupid, so unprofessional of me. But yeah, it's happening in a couple of days. 23rd to the 27th of the Comics Lounge. Come on down. It is going to be a great night. And I'll tell you why it's going to be a great night, yeah? You'll never believe this, but my show is going to be about shitting on journalists. Journalists through time. And the reason that I'm going to be doing it is because it is the biggest red pill you will ever swallow in your life. It'll break your jaw on how big it is. In fact, people who have seen the show in the comments back me up on this. If you aren't seeing this show, you're missing out. It is like going through life not reading the propaganda model that Noam Chomsky outlines in either of his books, Manufacturing Consent or Necessary Illusions, right? Like, if you don't read that book, you go through life in this walking haze in the Matrix, and then all of a sudden Noam Chomsky comes along and goes like, the ABC is just as shit as Sky News is. Right? That's the show. The show is such a deep red pill that even when I'm doing it, and I've done it like 100 times at this point, even when I'm doing the show, I think, holy hell, this goes deeper than I thought. People come out of that show shattered with laughter. And also just this deep realization of, okay, I can't unsee the world now. You've had those moments, right, where you just go out of something and you're just like, okay, I'm just seeing all the worlds in ones and zeros. And obviously the Matrix didn't do that for you when you were in year 6. That's the other time it's happened to you, isn't it? Make it happen again. I'm telling you, you know those moments, like maybe watching Fight Club or something like that? This show is the version of that. And if you aren't satisfied, there's no refunds. However, keep listening. But Melbourne, get your tickets. You will love the show. Everybody does. But all right, I'm going to be talking about something else, which is less bragging, but not by much. That was about 100% brag. This is 99%, all right? There's a little bit of humble pie in it, but just a crumb, an absolute crumb, right? I had a life experience the other day, which I don't normally do because, as people always make fun of me, and that's very rude and it hurts my feelings. I spend my entire life on this wall. I never leave. I don't have time to leave. The only time I did have time to leave was to go and get petrol, and when life forces me out to have a life experience, I'm there for the taking. But let me tell you, it happens about once a decade. I had this life experience where I was walking into the BP and I got myself one of those Baroccas because it's just so much better than coffee. It doesn't give you that feeling of staying up all night, tossing and turning afterwards, but it gives you the zippiness that you want to get up and go. Grab life by the nuts, twist it like you're in a bloody Iraqi American prison, and then just bite it like an apple. Tasty. Raw nuts. That's what it gives you. Yeah, so I cannot recommend that enough. I want to say that before I get into the story, because I was unfortunately going to be talking about the fact that this particular one was a shit product. Not by its fault, this kind of happens. I think just the water vapor gets in and it kind of makes it look like what cheese would be if it actually was on the moon. Yeah, like Swiss cheesy, hollowed through, but also that rocky surface. That's what it looks like. Another way of putting it is, it looks like it really shouldn't go in your body. So I went back and talked to the guy that I had just talked to 10 seconds ago and said, hey man, can I just replace this with another one because this one's off? And then he goes, I'm sorry, but the expiry date says that it is not, and therefore I cannot give you a refund. And I said, all right, that's fine. You know what these are supposed to look like, right? And he says, yes. I go, I don't think they're supposed to look like rotten cheese. And he said, it is fine. Bold statement. So I said, all right, let's do a scientific experiment here. Yeah, I take off the smallest amount of it, which should be impossible. You shouldn't be able to take anything off one of these tablets. It's a solid tablet. But I take it off, drop it in the water, and you know when you drop clay in the water and it kind of just makes these clay stink lines if it were in a cartoon, that rises to the top. That's what was happening with it. So it wasn't doing the thing as is advertised in the ads, right? And so I say to him, you see now this is expired, right? And he goes, no, it is not expired because it doesn't say it on the side. And at that point, I'm just like, Jesus, I am talking to the Indian equivalent of one of those guys on Fox News that comes out and says, climate science saying that it's a consensus is a myth. I mean, there's so many factors that you're talking about something complicated, the climate, just denying reality, outright denying it. And I said, okay, much like climate scientists, let's run the exact same experiment again, because maybe there was just some variable off-put, and then when I put in the other part of this that is exactly the same as the part that I just put in, for some reason it'll magically fizzle up. So I put it in, it gets the clay stink lines effect twice. This is 2 strikes at this point. So I say to him, okay, please can I return this now, just to change it through. I mean, it's BP. It's not like your profit margins are so down that if you replace one Barocca in the entire continent of Australia, it's going to sink your global enterprise. He says, no, because the site says that it is not expired. I at this point, I just wanted him to accept reality. I didn't even want the money back. So I'm just kind of just being difficult, I suppose, is just saying like, dude, I'm not leaving for the other people, the customers here. I just want you to admit this. Just please admit that this is off. And then I'll go. I don't want money for it. I don't want an exchange. I just don't want somebody to be sitting there saying that the climate isn't changing in my face, right? Like, have you ever gotten to that point where somebody's just clearly lying to you and you're just like, dude, just... It doesn't matter that you're lying at this point. Like, I would think a lot of you if you accepted it, right? It got to that point, much like a certain person in a certain New South Wales hearing recently, yeah? And so that we got to that stage. I go, all right, I'm going to do it one more time just to show you. I'm going to dunk the whole thing in this time. And while I was doing it, I tipped the glass to its side to like a, just not even close to a 45-degree angle, just a little bit, so the tiniest amount of water. Like, if I could give you an example. There we go. It got there in the end. About that much, right? That much of the water spilled out, went onto one of the plastic containers containing one of their shit slices of banana bread, which is a rip-off to begin with that they try to upsell you. And that banana, like, what the fuck is that? The entire loaf should cost $2, not that slice. Who's buying it? Who likes banana bread that much that they're willing to be gouged for it? And also, BP, as previously mentioned, you are so rich that you have paralyzed every government on earth from doing anything to address an existential crisis. Why do you want this extra $2 over the top? Can you stop trying to upsell? And if you're going to upsell, can you upsell it with something like a Kinder Surprise or something that people want? Right? Like, this is the other thing. Do you trust the coffee at BP? I think it would be an upgrade if it was raw sewerage, right? Like, it's terrible. Do you trust whoever is baking the banana bread for BP? Side tangent, sorry about that. The point is, a piece of water dropped on the plastic outside of their shit product. And then the guy flips out. He yells, "You're destroying the product!" Freaks out. Like I'm about to pull a gun on him and shoot him. And so I just back off and say, okay, look, I'm just going to leave the defective product here and I'm going to go. All right? Have a nice day, Abdul. And then I leave. I thought that we had a one-on-one thing because of how many times I've spoken to it before. It got to that point where it was kind of uncomfortable that he wasn't saying, do you want the usual with that little Barocca thing? But just immediately, as soon as you ask for the slightest of favour, after all my years of loyalty to that BP, it wasn't that. And now that I keep saying it, it's actually not fair that I'm saying BP. Like, it's a shell. And I go to it so much that I can remember it off the bat. But, so he's flipping out about it. So I leave, turn around, and then there's this absolute man-child that I know is a man-child because they're dressed exactly like I am, yeah? Just imagine me in opposite land. I'm Pokemon Blue, as you can see. He was Pokemon Red. He was wearing a red jacket with a red shirt. But the difference between me and him is he was clearly drugged out on something, right? He was doing the eye gesture thing a bit like, heh, twitching, kind of like biting his lip and stuff. But it was a fancy suburb that I live in. And so he was like, you know what I mean? Like, he was a drug addict, but he was well supported with daddy's money. So he was still somewhat clean, and I think had baths in his life, right? Like, he wasn't Campbelltown junkie, he was rich private school dropout junkie, yeah? And anyway, he just goes, pretty fucked that you do that to an immigrant, man. Just try to bully him out of getting you some fucking products. It's not even his fucking fault that it's broken, man. You can't fucking do anything about it. You're a fucking racist, man. Fuck you. Fuck you, you fucking racist cunt. Starts doing that, just going on this big spiel about how racist I am. It's obviously because he knows who I am, right? And he's been meaning to say that for years, to stand up to the evils of the world, of people that find a critique with the teals. Right? So, like, he was doing all that shit. And in the middle of it, and this was all autopilot, I go, meth head, listen, I didn't spill product on his product. I accidentally spilled a tiny drop of water on some plastic. I wasn't doing it in some tantrum. It is just a defective product and I was trying to show him, okay? You didn't even see the situation, so shut the fuck up, right? And so I turned, and so I'm just waiting for him to do something. Yeah, so I'm just staring at him in the eyes, and I see him just jittering around, trying to comprehend what happened, because the guy that was in front of his screen just actually came back to him instead of him just writing abusive comments at the bottom, right? Like, that person was talking back to him, and he had to actually interact with them instead of just coming up with a narrative of what I think as subscribed to him because of his social circle or whatever, right? You could see all of that happening as he's just going like, and all he could muster at the end was saying, meth head? And I said, I don't know what specific drug you're on, but it's very obvious you're on something. You can't even look me in the eye. You're scattered everywhere. Is it because you're nervous? Is that why? Are you too scared to respond to me? Is that what's happening? And then he just turned around like this. He just like couldn't look me in the eye, and then goes, and then goes on to get served by Abdul, right? And I'm just like, hello? You going to respond? That's all you have? We done? Okay, we're done. Have a good day, guys. And I leave. And I've been thinking about that interaction ever since. You know why? Because I had just been reading a book, and one of the main primary principles of it, which is something that you were just reminded of over and over again, which is that what you practice in private, you will be rewarded for in public. Write it down. What you practice in private, you will be rewarded for in public. Now, that also means things that you do badly, you will be rewarded for in public. So reward is a neutral term at this point, okay? It's not just getting the Kinder Surprise toy in the Kinder Surprise that it was previously pissed off at that they didn't have at the front cover, right? So, counter. So, what actually happened in that interaction from everyone's perspective is just trained dog Pavlovian responses. Because I was talking to Ali about it, and I was just like, why do you think that Indian guy refused to accept reality there? And he was saying, because, man, in our culture, it's just like buyer beware. There's no such thing as a refund. You walk into a store and say, can I have a refund? They'll probably shoot you. It's the opposite of what happens there, right? Like, the gas guy will shoot you as opposed to a robber coming in and shooting the gas guy. It's so out of the norm in that reality that somebody could ask for a refund. So he's just sitting there denying reality because that's what you do in India. You just come up with all of these elaborate lies, and it's just kind of like, I suppose, almost a polite way of just saying, like, fuck off. Like, you chose something bad, tough shit, right? And obviously that was not how we're raised in Australia, so we have a different response to that, and we're just like, give me the fucking refund. Because we're so expectant. So good. They're so dodgy, and we're so expected. That was what was happening there. It's just like, this is inexcusable, right? But I think that out of it, when I was looking at it, because, you know, regardless of what they were saying in the situation, there was no aggression coming from my end. None at all. I would be very happy to go to the CCTV footage of that. All I was doing in the entire situation, I was thinking in my head, this is a comedy skit. This is a comedy skit that is happening right now, and I'm just rehearsing with someone. You know why I was thinking that? Because for the past 10 years of my life, every day of my life, I have done nothing but write scripts. I've done nothing but write skits. I've done nothing but write responses to snarky idiots on Twitter. That's what I do day in, day out. So I'm sitting there thinking I'm in the middle of a Larry David skit. And it kind of was, wasn't it? It was just, you're denying that it's not doing the fizzle thing. What, you're not going to give me a refund? Like, it's Seinfeld. It's just cheap. Don't have to pay for Netflix Seinfeld. I was enjoying it, sort of like as a spectator, and also just, this is good practice. That's actually how my brain thinks. This was all subconscious, that this was all firing off at. And it is because of just 10 years of rigorous training. My brain knows nothing else but to do that in that situation. When I'm in an uncomfortable situation, my brain thinks, great comedy moment. Which is the great thing about being in stand-up. Yeah, it's like I was talking to Lewis Spears about this recently, who's got like a bunch of facial reconstruction surgery, and not for aesthetic reasons, although people do get it for aesthetic reasons, so he's going to be very handsome at the end. But I was like, that's awesome. And he said, I know exactly what you mean. And the reason is because both of us being comedians, we both realize that when you have like these experiences in life, regardless of whether they're good or bad, it's just perfect comedy material. So it's just this great, as Freud would say, ego defense of wherever you are in life, you're going to get something out of it if you're a comedian. That is one of the great benefits of doing stand-up, I think. And so, yeah, that's how I was seeing that part of the situation. Then, with the meth head, obviously, he's trained and conditioned in his mind just being like, you fucking racist, friendly Geordie's fucking dog cunt. Like, he's thinking that. And so he's just responding to me like I am on the screen to you right now. But like, I was there. You could smell my BO. It was early in the morning. What can I say? And so when that didn't go down as just being like, the dickhead, right? And then I responded to him. You could see him just like freaking out and being like, error plus system overload with narcotics, right? So he couldn't do anything in that situation other than just kind of like, it just didn't work out how he'd been conditioned in that situation. And I'd been conditioned in that situation from doing 10 years of stand-up, and this is why you should see my brand new show, by the way, because I honestly do think that I'm very good at dealing with hecklers after doing it for 10 years. Yeah, it's second nature. It's the only way that I know how to deal with bad situations, is that once somebody attacks you, you attack them back. You start pointing out all of their flaws immediately. So it just like took him off guard. I didn't realize it at the time, because this is all just natural. It's just like somebody attacks you on stage. If you can see them in your sight, what do you immediately do? You look for their character traits, you look at what they said, you look at what they look like so that you can turn it on them very quickly. That's what you're looking for. This is all instantaneous stuff. This is all just unconscious, just Pavlovian, like, rah, rah, rah. That's what I do in tense situations. In fact, it's so scary. Miss, when he comes to my shows, he always says, like, sometimes I'm arguing with bikies in the audience and I don't even know that they're bikies. And I'm just being really disrespectful and rude to them for a cheap laugh on stage. And then afterwards he thinks like, I thought they were going to come up and, kill you, right? Because they were like fucking angry. But because everything is just stage to me, I haven't actually ever dealt with a real life situation where someone's knuckle dusted me in the face for being a smart aleck, because I'm kind of paid to be a smart aleck and am rewarded for being a smart aleck. So when I am in a situation where that is happening in real time and there is a meth head in front of me, so who the fuck knows what he could have done, my response is to sit there and be like, wise guy, back in my day we used to be able to go and rough you up in the back, but now I just got to rough you up with my words, right? Like, that was happening. That was how my brain saw, like, as soon as it registered anger, it thought, okay, this is a heckler, respond to heckler. So that's what was happening there. It was just like, okay, I'm not getting what I want in this situation. Well, that's just one of the basic building blocks of any comedic situation. It's just like one character wants something and the other character has that thing. That's storytelling 101, right? So as soon as my brain registers that, it just is like, okay, let's turn this into a comedy skit. And then when somebody yells at me in aggression, I think that's a heckler. What you practice in private, you are rewarded for in public. You want to remember that for the rest of your life. That everything that you are doing is a response. It is what you have been trained to do, be it consciously or unconsciously, and that's why it's very important for you to be conscious of it. You need to shape the type of person that you want to become. And I'm not talking about every situation ever, right? But it's just like, what are your role models? What are the people that you look up to? You are moving towards them. You are becoming more like them. This is why people always learn this when they reach kids. This is actually, the thing that I think freaked me out about this as well is I was talking to someone that just had, he's a school friend of mine, but he's got kids now, right? And his children, when they do something wrong, he notices that he yells at them in the exact same way that his parents yell. If you are a parent, let me know if this is true, that you respond to your kids in the exact way that your parents responded to you. And so you don't know until you're in the situation, obviously. But then it happens, and then you just have this moment like I had of, I know exactly where that came from. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't it fascinating that everything that you are doing right now, you are doing because of that habit cycle, and you are going through it, you are feeling the emotions, you are having the thoughts, you are doing the activities that have been programmed into you. Here's what's exciting. You can program them to do whatever you want. I am a very extreme example of it. I have done two things for the last 10 years. I have written scripts and I have done stand-up. So whenever I am in a situation that is tense, I revert to what I know. You revert to what you know as well. The question is, do you know what you're going to revert to? And I would love to know in the comments. If you've got any stories like that, let me know. Also, give my new show props to say that, yeah, no, he's really good. It's really good. Everything that he just said, he's better than at, okay? Make sure that you come and see the Melbourne show. And if you want more stuff, if you want to know how to actually, program your mind, because I've been studying this stuff for years. Neuro-linguistic programming, I've got a degree in that shit, okay? Not actually. I've just read, quite a few books on it. But these, Jordan Shanks, so cheap. So much cheaper than getting an NLP. Jeez. See, another one. Why did I say LNP? Because I spend most of my life sitting there being like, man, fuck the Liberal Party, right? You just do what you have been programmed to do. The entire point of Jordan Shanks and the program behind that is to program you to be successful, to be more effective at getting what you want in life, and also to program you to just be a happier, more contributory human being in general. Because if you do that, the rest of your life, it's like a safety lock, right? It's like a safety lock. You just get in the right codes, the safe opens up, life sorted. That's what happens when you know the keys of self-help. But like a safe, you also have to keep oiling it and be reminded of these principles. I do it as much for myself as I do for you. But tiny investment. Make sure that you sign up to Jordan Shanks, and make sure that if you're in Melbourne, you come to my show. I'm very sorry that I didn't tell you about it. So stupid of me. But honestly, you're going to love it. You're going to miss out if you don't come. You really will. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It is. It is. It's like, once it's gone, and it unlocks something in your mind. Just like I hope I did just then, expanded your mind for free. Now you've got to return the favor, right? $50 or whatever the fucking price of the thing is. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to that extremely long story, but it just needs you to know that what you are doing right now is how you will behave in the future. Your actions will turn into behaviors to that level. I'll see you next time.